Hi, everybody. Kim asked me to share a few of my best practices, or at least things that have worked for me over the years as far as online teaching. So I'll just go over a couple of ideas I have, especially for week zero and week one type stuff, because I think those are fairly universal concerns that we all address no matter what discipline we're in. So this is my homepage, obviously. I think however you end up doing it, I think it's really important to make it clear to students how they get started. It should be crystal clear right on the homepage as soon as they sign in what to do. And I think this is always, a challenge because we build our courses, we live with them, we know them inside and out, and after a while, I think we take a lot for granted, and we just assume that students should be able to figure things out. And I think it's important to try and imagine what the course looks like from the point of view of someone who's never seen it before. And ask yourself, okay, if I was signing into this course for the very first time, would it make sense to me? Would I know what to do, where to go? So this is my attempt to try and do that. I embed a welcome video right there in the homepage, which I think is important to try and humanize the class. And so students are directed, to get started, go and click on the modules. So one of the ways I've rethought this introductory module is instead of stuffing my syllabus with all kinds of information, what I tried to do is think about, okay, what are the absolute most important things students need to know to get started? And instead of having those in the syllabus, I put them in this introductory module. And for me, this is the only module where I have this requirement that students have to work their way through each page of the module in sequence, and they can't see any other modules until they get through this module, because what happens if they're allowed to skip ahead is they have all kinds of questions, if they're confused. If I basically force them to go through this first module step by step, they're much better prepared for what comes on later. So I'll just quickly go through this introductory module and show you some of the things that I do. Right off the bat, I let students know that they need to view every page in this module. Then, well, this might seem odd, but I actually put the homepage in my introductory module because for the longest time I had this assumption that students would sign into the class and that they would always start from the homepage. But that's not true. Students can enter the course from the to-do list or from their calendar. And so they might not necessarily even look at the homepage. So I wanted to make sure that they see the homepage as they're making their way through the introductory module. And of course, the homepage has all that kind of stuff students need to know: how they can get a hold of you, how long it'll be before they hear back from me. I also include the advice from former students on the homepage. And so moving forward, one of the things that I think is helpful for students, and I say this based on a lot of feedback from students, is a navigation video. And this is probably the longest video I have in the class. No matter how hard I try, I can't compress it any more than it already is. But what it basically does is it's a video tour of the class, and I try and show students, where to find the reading, how to turn in assignments, how to connect with their classmates, just the very basic bare bones of how to find their way through the class is right here. And I also send this out in a pre-course email, so they have multiple opportunities to take a look at it. information about the textbook, information about how to cite sources with a video explaining how to cite sources. What else do I have in here? Oh, this is my way of dealing with late work, and I found it to be pretty effective, actually. So what I do is I tell students this: look, I don't accept unexcused late work, but if you need more time, I will give it to you, no questions asked. All you have to do is request more time prior to the deadline. So to me, this is sort of like meeting each other halfway. As long as they ask for more time, I'll give it to them, but they have to be at least responsible enough to ask for the added time prior to the deadline. So all they do is, click on this link, and it's a little Google form, and they explain why they need more time, and they set a due date for themselves. And this works pretty well, actually. I explain my policy on extra credit, how I'm going to be giving them feedback. I think they need to know that. I have this policy where they can revise up to 4 assignments each course for a better grade. This is pretty important, I think, for week 1 type stuff. I call it a learner information form, and basically what it is a survey that students fill out so that I begin getting to know who they are, what particular challenges they might have, how best way to contact them, that sort of thing. Trying to give them a sense of what my expectations are. I think this is always a really fascinating question to see: what do you expect of me? What are the most important qualities demonstrated by an instructor? Why? You get some really interesting responses there. And this is probably the most important question I have in the beginning of the year survey. How are you feeling about this class? Most folks are going to say something like fine, good, excited. But, maybe, 10% of the class is going to say nervous, scared, worried, anxious, apprehensive. And those are the students that I reach out to with a personalized message, encouraging them to contact me if they need help, trying to communicate to them that I hear them, I'm going to keep my eye on them, and that I want them to succeed. And so that, over the years, has been helpful as well. And next, of course, campus resources and policies. And then I like this assignment. At the top, I have a link to the Padlet where I have the advice that I've collected and curated from previous classes. And so this is, in a sense, the last thing that students will do in one of my courses. So I pick the best of these and present them to new students, and it will be writing about that advice from former students is the first thing students will do in a new class. So basically, introduce yourself and explain which piece or pieces of advice from former students you find most helpful. And they're doing this in a recording. They're using Screencastify Submit. It's really simple to use. You see, all they had to do here is click on the link, and it opens up this recording tool. And it's a piece of cake. It works really well. I've found that it's a lot more reliable than the tools that are in Canvas. And one of the reasons I like this particular assignment a lot is that the words from peers about how they can succeed in the class, what they need to do, what they need to be aware of, those really resonate. And every semester I have students tell me, yeah, I felt overwhelmed at first, I was going to drop the class, but then I watched some advice from former students and I calmed down, I relaxed, and I moved forward. So this is one of my favorite things to create and to grade, because you hear some really interesting perspectives from students. And so that's pretty much it for the introductory module. I have another video welcoming them to the class now that they've made it through the first module. And then real quick, I just wanted to show you a typical module. For me, a couple of things that I use that have been helpful. At the beginning of every week, I try to lay out as clearly as I can exactly what they're going to be doing that week. Again, encouraging them to contact me if they have any questions or concerns. And by the way, I think it really matters that if you encourage students to contact you, you should be getting back to them as quickly as possible. And what that means, of course, is going to be different for everybody. I understand boundaries, right? But you would not believe how often I hear students, in that introductory survey where I say, hey, what do you expect from me as an instructor? And it's actually a really low bar. Many of them say, would you please respond to my emails or messages? Because some of my instructors don't, which it's a pretty low bar. But what I do at the beginning of every week is I post a quick video early on Monday morning, usually not about the content, but about, being a successful student, time management, study strategies, things like this. And they actually have to watch the video to get the question that I'm going to be asking for them for the week about study skills. And then they're clicking on this link to answer in a Google form. And that's, of course, just one way of doing this. I like collecting the responses this way because I can put them in a Google sheet, and I won't open it because there are, student data there. There's student data there. But this has been a lot of fun coming up with questions to encourage students to think about being students, being successful. And every week it's something different. And then the one other thing I wanted to point out is I don't, have lecture videos in the class. I don't think long videos like that are particularly effective. I mean, that's just my perspective. But what I do like to do is I have these short introductory videos for every lesson. Long story short, they are never more than maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes long, and they're just a brief introduction to the content, especially for those students who have very little prior knowledge about what it is we're going to be talking about. And I encourage them to watch the video first before they dive into the reading, because then they'll have a better framework to begin understanding and analyzing the reading that we're doing for that week. But, if you've watched this far, thanks for sticking in there and letting me share some ideas about how I run my classes. And I would be, happy to hear from any of you who have any questions about what I've shared. So thanks very much. Take care, everybody. Good luck.